everyone has this preconceived notion of how far women athletes can go, women basketball players. And when you supersede it, there's a transfixion that you're like, I gotta see what's next. Oh my God, can she shoot from the hash mark on the other side? She just transcends a lot of those misconceptions about what a female basketball player should be and almost forces you. You're like, I need to see what's next. Where's she playing? What's she doing? What I need to wear her. I need to watch this. And she's one of those players that can change the game.
Two great legends of women's basketball, women's sports, the WNBA, and so much more. Uh, Donna Orender and Taj McWilliams-Franklin, welcome to both of you. Thanks so much for joining me.
Our
Thanks
pleasure. Are
for
you
having
kidding?
us.
Well, thanks. Thank you. We're talking hoops. We're talking the WNBA. The season is upon us, a season that is unlike any other. You guys go way back. I go way back. We all go way back together to the
We
good old
do.
days. Get into those good old days. But let's first of all talk about this CBA and this moment. And I'm guessing Taj, obviously as a multiple time All Star, a Hall of Famer, one of the great pioneers and starting out in the W, well, before the W, and then in the W for years. When you read about the CBA, when you heard about what the players were getting and how things were changing, what was your reaction?
Yeah, I was super excited. I think that, there are players that laid the groundwork for this space now that our players are entering in the CBA. And I am absolutely thrilled that they can get the CBA done first and have a season, but also get a little piece of the pie, as many of them stated, have an opportunity to build some generational wealth for them and their families. And I think it's a really a blessing to be able to do that playing this game of basketball.
And Donna Orender, of course, you were the second president of the WNBA, 2005 to 2011. What was your reaction when you saw the numbers, when you saw the decimal points moving? What would
I
you?
mean, it's like, come on, it's thrilling at any measure. All through the years, people would say, the players should make more money. No one ever disagreed with that. No one said no, they shouldn't. They should make this. So, like, yeah, it's a long time coming. As these things happen, you wish it wasn't this long time coming, but it is here. It's almost, surreal in a way. You see the max contracts. You see Asia signing for 5, and then you see Aaliyah like topping her, and you're like, this is real money. This is a true sustainable surge in the business of women's sports.
Yeah, and again, long time coming, as you mentioned, and the glass clearly is half full. It's certainly not full yet. I mean, you
That's
look at
right.
the NBA numbers, and again, the millions and millions and millions of dollars there compared to what the WNBA players are getting. But this is a step forward for sure. And you both were there at the beginning or near the beginning, actually, maybe before the beginning. uh, you've seen it all. Taj, let's go back if you don't mind. And I think that's so helpful for people who are listening and watching to hear the stories of the past. There's a lot of WNBA fans. There are a lot of people who've been with the league for a while, but it's more recent, right?
Right.
And when I covered the Olympics, the '96 Olympics in Atlanta, watched that launch the WNBA. But even before the WNBA was, of course, many other leagues, and I'd love for both of you to talk about that. But Taj, you played in the old ABL. Donna, you also were playing pro basketball way even, before that. But Taj, for you, what was that like? If you can describe life in that at that time for a woman's professional basketball player, especially someone of your caliber.
Yeah, I think when I go back and think about that, I think it was more about just making a name for yourself and playing, especially for me in a space that maybe wasn't as recognizable for me where I was at. I mean, I played in the ABL. I went to the combine for the ABL, tried out with the thousands of players that were there trying out, and got an opportunity to play in the ABL with a lot of names that were either from the Olympic team or top D1 schools that had amazing athletes. So for me, it was a bit of a haul to get to a space where I was starting, I was playing. I mean, I played with Dawn Staley, Adrian Goodson, top international players were in the ABL, Michelle Marciniak, Teresa Edwards. I played with all of these folks that I had just come to recognize were the greats of the greats. And the ABL, it was really amazing. I mean, look, I won't admit that I think I was making literally $2,000 a month to play in the ABL because I wasn't a big name. Um, but it was a time where I got to develop and grow and learn from some of the greats that I never got an opportunity to play with Dawn Staley in the Olympics. I never got an opportunity, to play with Teresa Edwards in the Olympics, but I grew up in Georgia watching Teresa Edwards and Katrina McLean be amazing in those spaces. So for me, the ABL helped me develop into the player that I was going to be in the W, end up being in the W. But even being in the ABL, it wasn't a sure spot. I mean, I got picked up in the expansion draft when the ABL folded, and I got picked up to play in the third round, basically. And I wasn't making very much more money than I made in the ABL, literally. But I came in and Coach Carolyn Peck was the head coach and general manager at the time of the W and saw something in me that maybe I wasn't quite sure of in myself and put me in a position to succeed. I mean, I started every game from the moment I got there, and it it just put a level of confidence in me as a player coming from an NAIA school that be. I could be greater. I could be more, and I could be a significant contributor in the ecosystem of women's basketball.
You played in Orlando, Connecticut. You won WNBA titles in Detroit and Minnesota. You moved around. How did you make ends meet? Because again, since we are looking at today's CBA and looking at the money that it is finally really hitting the league. How describe life then? I mean, I certainly
Yeah.
wasn't charter flights and the $1 million
No.
contracts that some of these players have now.
I mean, I've never flown a charter flight except 3 times. One to the White House, in Detroit. We had to fly the charter, so we got to fly Pistons 1, thankfully, thanks to Mr. Davidson, who's since passed. But for me, it was, I played overseas 22 years. So every year, except for the 2.5 I was in the ABL, I was overseas since 1993. So I've been playing in Europe every season, W overseas, W overseas, W overseas, W overseas, constantly, because it was so much more. One, the salary was way more, y- plus the living arrange. It was just a different experience. And then when I was living in Italy for 8 years, I would be flying here to the W to play in the W, go back home to Italy, and then go overseas somewhere else to play. So for me, ends met that way because I was getting paid 10, 20 times more than I was getting in a W. And I literally played in a W because I just wanted to play against the very best every single time. So I could become one of the very best. Iron sharpens iron. And that's how I viewed it.
And Donna, you of course also had quite a career. You and I are pretty close in age. So we're going back even farther than the youngster here, Taj, that we have with us. Uh, and we're all ancient compared to Caitlin Clark and her age group. So there you go.
Yeah.
But but Donna, could you put in perspective and when you were playing and what it was like? I mean, it was a labor of love, obviously, because it certainly wasn't about the money. About how things were even a good maybe 10 years before Taj hit professional basketball.
Yeah, so we played in the WBL, the Women's Professional Basketball League. I got a call. I was in graduate school and said, "Hey, do you want to play?" I'm like, "Are you kidding?" Like I felt like my game, like I had so much more in me that I wanted to do. I loved it so much, and I said, "Of course, yes." And I would go to school in the morning, and then I would do my homework in my car, and then I would play. And then I'm on the team. The New York Stars were playing in Madison Square Garden, which, by the way, our team was the first women's basketball team to ever play female in the Madison Square Garden. So that was cool. We're being coached by a former Knick. Dean Meminger, Dean the Dream. And I remember I negotiated my own contract. And they called me up and they said, "Well, what's the deal?" I said, "Well, I want to be the highest paid player on this team. Whoever you can pay people as much as I am, I want to be the highest paid player." And they said, "Well, we have Althea Gwynn, who was actually my college teammate for 4 years, and she's 6'2", and she has to make a little more than you." I said, "Okay, what are you paying her?" They said 5,500. I said, "Great, pay me 5,000." That was a negotiation. Could you? I paid I made $5,000 for the season, and I thought I was, I thought I was rich.
And what year was that, Donna?
I don't remember. Honestly,
Well, it was
I
in
actually
you
don't
were
remember. I mean, I could do the research after and get back to you, but I don't exactly remember. But yeah, $5,000 was my salary, and I was the second highest paid player. I feel blessed. I was told, I did not know this. I'm only one of 12 players that played all 3 seasons in the WBL. So I actually had the experience of getting traded. I did record that. I have to find that recording because there's like nothing like hearing about being traded, like, a product, right? And then I moved one more time, and I ended my career in Chicago before this. That was the last year, and then the league folded. But what an incredible experience!
Yeah. By the way, there is this thing called the internet, and I just used it to
Thank you
and
so much, Christine. I don't know why did I say yes to this? I am so sorry. Why did I say yes to this?
you're
And
doing
I
great. You're doing. I know. No, just giving you a hard time. You and I go back a long way. 1978 to 79 was New York Stars, and then 79 to 80 the New Jersey Gems, and then as you mentioned, Chicago.
Yeah, so the Gems is when I met Annie. So which is a great story, right? I am in the gym. We played in Elizabeth High School in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It was a great gym for a high school. It was like better than some college gyms. And this woman walks in, and all I knew is she was the richest person I'd ever met. She had just gotten paid $50,000 to try out for the Indiana Pacers,
And you're
right?
talking Annie Myers, of course, Annie Myers Drysdale.
Right,
Yeah.
who remains one of my dearest friends to this day. And what a great time we had together. Honestly, what a great time.
So you were there, and I covered the WNBA, and then as I mentioned, the Olympics, and then started covering the WNBAs. And basically, we're obviously going to be honest, brutally honest on this podcast, as I always try to be, and I know you are as well. And the mainstream sports media, male-dominated mainstream sports media that I've been a part of since the '80s, and still am, and proudly so, being in the sports media. But it's clearly, far more men than women in sports media. They basically ignored women's basketball. Now, those were early days that you guys were describing, especially Donna. You know, we understand, that was things were beginning. But once you have the Atlanta Olympics and you have that springboard, and that was Tara Vanderveer's team, and they just and the next year there were the two leagues, WNBA, right, and the ABL, and then pretty soon the ABL was gone, and it was just the WNBA. And yet it's still been a struggle. Can you guys put into words just how hard it has been to get attention, to get money? Clearly, Taj, as you were playing, Donna, as then you were running the WNBA as the president there from '05 to 11. So you guys overlapped because
Yeah,
Taj, your last season, if I'm correct here, was 2012, right?
correct.
So you knew each other,
Yeah.
obviously. You overlapped for those
Oh,
what?
we knew each other. That's where we met.
Right. So how, can you give listeners and viewers a sense of what it's like to just not get credit, not be noticed? You're doing great stuff. You're the best in the world, and that the media still isn't coming aboard in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I know Detroit had great attendance. I know there were some great TV ratings, but in general, this was still second class citizens or not seen as a super major league sport. Can you talk about what that means and how hard that is to deal with?
Yeah, I'd say I mean, you think of it as a player, it's your life's work, your life mission, and you really want to be seen, truly seen. I think people use it a lot nowadays about being seen, but you really want to be seen as um, a colleague in this work. Like, you don't want your life's work to be minimized. It's the same for anybody that works anywhere in anything. They want to be seen in what they do. And I think for us as players, we were just soldiering on as women often do without really getting the acknowledgement that we know we deserve. but somehow seeing it as a bigger cause and just keep pushing forward. It's going to happen soon. Keep pushing for it. You keep pushing for it. But there is a sadness in that too, that you're working this hard all the time. And okay, you're okay with not, the money's not quite there yet because of the folks aren't all coming out to the game, or you're not on major television. Um, but then you feel like, why aren't we? And unfortunately, some of it had to do with the media attention that was given to women's sports, as you mentioned. You kind of are the redheaded stepchild of this. Like, oh yeah, this is great. This is big business. Oh yeah, and also, the WNBA played, or you have really prominent figures coming out and saying things that were hurtful and untrue about the WNBA, which also limit the amount of exposure. And I know there's a big saying, all of the stuff is good, whether it's good or bad, as long as you're out there. But some of it, you want it to be about the nature of the business, and how, people don't see you going to the hospitals and meeting with those kids, and making their day, just showing up, or staying 2 hours after a game just to talk to fans, or giving, signing autographs in the mall when you're with your family, or at 11 p.m. at night when you're holding your baby in your arms and you're signing something just because they were there and they paid money to see you. And I think too often, that was the refrain. It was just like, okay, yeah, 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 you're playing. Oh, that's awesome. But we don't really see you. We see this game that we love, but we only love this certain folks to play it. And so you're always I felt we were always in this uphill battle to just be relevant when the game itself was relevant already. I mean, I always tell people, think about it. Who did Naismith invent this game for originally, all those decades ago? And you think about that, you're somehow behind, behind, behind after all these years of grinding. Now everyone says grinding, but pushing through these barriers.
And Donna, uh, can you describe and maybe even give us an anecdote or something as you're fighting these battles for the players too, right? So you were a player, you
Oh,
did,
big time. Big
and
time.
now
Big
you're
time. Big time.
the league and you're going into meetings and you're trying to sell this.
Oh, the difference between today and then, I mean, like, it's like night and day, really. I mean, then it was extraordinarily difficult. Um, I don't know. There's always believers. There's always been a pool of believers, and the believers were there and they grew. They just weren't supported by the greater culture. Some people like you, but they want permission to like you. And when there's not a lot of permissions, when you have Stephen A. Smith on the air questioning our right to exist, and the people who are his fans are like, you know what I mean? You get pulled along in that. Or I remember being in Charlotte at the time. It was before the Sting were still there, and I was with a guy from Coca-Cola. I'll never forget this. And I'm like, listen, you love women's basketball. You're here. This is great. He goes, yeah, I really do. I said, well, 94% of your beverage selections right now are made by women. So why wouldn't you put your brand behind it? And he said to me, yeah, but my mid-tier buyers are men. And I'm like, but they're selling to women, right? So why wouldn't you do that? And there were believers that stepped in, but it was really, really challenging for sure. But we knew, and I was glad to hear Todd say this, and you say it as well. Never ever doubted the talent of the players, right? They were always fantastic. They were always at the elite highest level. It was always an entertaining game and overall presentation, as only the NBA WNBA can bring to a court. So that part never worried me. It was really working through, right, a cultural milieu that wasn't, was evolving, I guess you could say. It just took 20 more years to get where, we're standing so tall and so proud, and there's a lot more to go.
Well, and the slurs that you guys got while you played, and I played basketball in high school and could have walked on at Northwestern, but I was better off doing intramurals and the daily Northwestern. So, but I love basketball too and played it, obviously as long as I could. But then as I'm now covering it, I'm covering Dawn Staley at when I'm at the Washington Post, when she's at UVA, and when she's in the Final Four. Cheryl Swoops, I was down in Atlanta covering her victory in the women's final, and their championship in '93. So I'm covering all this, and I would do some radio shows, and I've said this before, and people hear it on this podcast probably a few times. That I go on a radio show, sports talk, guys. That's okay. That's fine with me. I don't care. And I know those guys are friends probably, and they're laying into women's hoops. And the argument was, oh, they're just all rolling around on the floor, and it's just all jump balls, right? And I would defend it because I played and I'm also covering it and I see the value in it, of course. And the Washington Post, George Solomon, our sports editor, he would send me there. Lots of newspapers weren't sending reporters, male or
Very
female,
true.
but I was going, and the Post, George hired women, Sally Jenkins, Janet Howard, me, lots of us, and also Rachel Nichols later on, and on it goes. But also, then I sent us to cover things men's sports. Obviously, I covered way more men's sports than women's sports, but I wanted to make sure to cover women's sports and make sure we were doing our job the way we covered the men's. So now here come the slings and arrows for me. It's a big joke, and I'm getting laughed at on the radio. Okay, again, I couldn't care less. I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm tall. I got this. But so that's what someone like me was getting. And again, and so now let's get in our time machine and move ahead here a little bit. Those men who used to call in and laugh at women's basketball, again, something I have said a lot on my book tour. So sorry for the repetition here for those who have heard me say this before. Those guys, whether it's them or whether it's their sons or even grandsons now, are the ones who are buying the number 22 jerseys, and they're wearing
Mm.
to the game, but to to go shopping and go buy gas and go to the grocery store. That's the change, and of course it's the Caitlin Clark for sure, but so many other players as well. Paige Beckers, Angel Reese, obviously this draft class. So putting this in perspective, that's my long-winded teeing you guys up from where you were to what you see now. Taj, I'll start with you. What is the takeaway? What is your reaction? What's the perspective that you have from where you were to seeing how things have changed now?
Yeah, for me, the perspective is crazy. The change has been so dramatic. For a while, it was kind of stable. You saw the one-offs like, I'm playing towards the end. Candace Parker. Whoa. The new unicorn style, it went from Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Tina Thompson, DT, Sue, all of those players into, we have this kid, Candace Parker shows up, and you're like, oh my God, amazing. You're watching her, Brittany Griner, you're watching all dunking, all of this stuff. And then it's just like an explosion. Like we weren't really looking. We saw great players, one-offs, and now it's like this explosion of talent year after year, draft after draft that's showing up and are standing up and saying, recognize my talent, but also what everything else that I bring. And it's been amazing for us. I know myself personally to see and watch and be a part of and notice the difference, but also to just celebrate. You're like, wow, this is amazing. I can't wait to see what's next. I always tell everyone I wanna be sitting in my wheelchair or in my rocker on my porch with the TV on the wall in the back and watching this new breed of players, whoever that's gonna be as they show up and show out in this next generation after this generation and the next. Because I think it's just this exponential growth model, and not only exponential in the talent, but also all the things that happen off the court that we never got a chance to explore. And, I'm here for it, and I'm excited. I love it. I mean, I witness a lot of these players and their development of their brands. I can't say I'm always on social media, but I hear about it. I see it on, Yahoo, on ESPN Sports Center, or whatever it's on. And I think it is a natural evolution of the talent and the folks that they've seen before and before. Like for me, I saw Cheryl Miller play and I was like, man, and Katrina McLean and all of them. And I said, wow, maybe I could do a little bit of that. And then, you got players now that are saying, I watch Diana Taurasi, I watch Candace Parker, she's my favorite. For me, it was like, yeah, yeah. When I was growing up as a kid, I saw this old school 76ers. like Mo Cheeks, Moses Malone, Dr. J. That's who I had to see. And then once I got old enough, I saw all these great women players playing this amazing game. So I think that explosion of talent is from just who are they looking at? Who's coming before them? Who's building this foundation? And hopefully they're looking at them and saying, I love them. I love Candace Parker, but I want to be better. And that's where I think that talent comes from. And they're just great in their own rights.
So, but Taj, what's so great about what you're saying is this explosion of talent is there's not enough places for that talent to play.
Correct.
And so that is a great way of saying the evolution of the Upshot League is because while the league, the WBA is growing, right? So when I left, it was 12 and then it went to 13. Now it's 15. And I'm sure but it's going to take a while. And so those roster spots are so precious. The data behind them, the analytics are like 2%, 1%, 8%. Like there's just not enough jobs. And it's also never going to be enough exposure either. And so to have a league like the Upshot League, which we call an opportunity league, a league that creates opportunity at every touch point, whether it be jobs for athletes, jobs for coaches, assistant coaches, equipment managers, anyone in the front office. It's an opportunity for communities that never would be able to touch a WNBA team. Why should they be not denied elite women's professional basketball, right? When we know how unbelievable galvanizing, right, professional sports could be, especially women's professional sports in a city. And so I can't tell you how excited we are. And I would say for me personally, because Taj and I did meet during her time at the WNBA, she would come and visit me in my office. One day I asked her, I said, do you want to sit in my chair one day? And she looked at me and said, I do. And I said, let's see if we can figure that out. And we stayed in touch all these years. So to be together now with our collective history, both, the same but different, right? But united by a passion for how sports is an incredible impact player in the lives of all who are around it. We get to do something that's historical once again.
Well, and you're talking about the Upshot League, and that is the developmental league that you run.
It's not a developmental league. It's an opportunity league.
Opportunity.
But it is, I understand. Well, at least online, it's called the developmental league.
I know. Would you help us change that? Because you have the power of the pen.
Yes. Well, I believe me. We even more right now. We got the power of the podcast, so that's good.
Yeah.
Not a developmental league, but 4 teams in the South, as you said, cities that don't otherwise get a chance to see this. And it's starting up. You're the commissioner, Donna, and Taj, you are the vice president of basketball operations, I believe.
Yeah. How amazing is that, right? And we've announced Team 5. We've announced Team 6 in expansion. This summer we'll announce Team 7. We are hearing it first.
Located.
Huh?
Where are the teams located?
Team 5's in Baltimore. Team 6 is in Nashville. Team 7, you're going to have to wait and find out. But just, on your podcast for breaking news, we're going to announce another team this summer.
Sounds good. And what about 1 through 4? They're all in the South.
Jacksonville,
right?
Jacksonville, Savannah, Greensboro, and Charlotte.
And who might we see? Some of the names, because as we know, the interest in college is just exponentially greater. The TV numbers are so much greater than the WNBA now. So some of these people that people were watching for a few years in the college ranks on TV, they'll see some of these players also in your league.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. They're going to be, they're former WNBA players, they're former international team players, they're former Division I players. They're celebrated. They've got accolades. It's really impressive.
And how can people, what's the website, or how do folks find out when they can buy tickets and all that good stuff?
Absolutely.
You can buy tickets now.
www.upshotleague.com. And you can buy tickets for all of our markets, any of our markets, on that website as well. It'll direct you to where you can purchase them.
It's called the Upshot League. And no, it's very cool. And I know, Donna, you and I have talked about it. And again, this is, you've also been in the golf world, and we've seen this with the LPGA and with the
PGA Tour,
of course, with leagues. And, the idea, I think a sport is making it, or has made it, when there's more than one league, when you've got feeder systems, when you've got others to play as well, as you said, because you see all this great talent in college and also in the W who maybe then, get cut, lose their job, whatever it might be. And, but they still are fantastic players, so much better than, say, were, other than you two, of course, 20, 30 years ago. The quality, the coaching, the talent, it's Title IX personified in every way. And the nation has fallen in love with what we've created because of that law signed by Richard Nixon in June of 72. Obviously now, as we're looking, 54 years almost of Title IX. Let's go back for a moment to it's something that is I've written about in my book, talked about a lot, and of course that's the impact of Caitlin Clark. And Donna, you and I have talked quite a bit as well. Lots of great players out there. We've never seen, in my humble opinion, in terms of the TV numbers, in terms of the attendance, there's no one who's filling up arenas and stadiums and also getting the attendance, the TV number viewership that Caitlin Clark is doing. Why do you both think that's happening?
I think it's because when you look at the game, you are obviously going to be interested in those game changers, as we call them. Those are the players that transcend what you normally would think a player, an athlete can do, into the realm of this is so amazing, I can't believe it. You think about those days, we're all the same age when we watch Michael Jordan. I mean, I watched Dr. J do that, where he flipped it under and held it. I watched Maya Moore do that same play, but you're transfixed by those players that supersede what you think they can do. Larry Bird is another one. Like you think about those players, Michael Jordan, Shaquille. No one had ever seen anybody that big be that dominant. So I think it's the same for Caitlin. Like everyone has this preconceived notion of how far women athletes can go, women basketball players. And when you supersede it, there's a transfixion that you're like, I gotta see what's next. Oh my God, can she shoot from the hash mark on the other side? She just transcends a lot of those misconceptions about what a female basketball player should be and almost forces you. You're like, I need to see what's next. Where's she playing? What's she doing? What I need to wear her. I need to watch this. And she's one of those players that can change the game when you're watching it. And I think that pulls people in. It pulls me in. I mean, I watch all the games, so I want to see what's next as well. But I
I do
think
too.
that
I do
pulls
too.
you in and it supersedes generations. It's not like only 20-year-olds are watching or only 30 or only 50 something year olds. It's everyone. Everyone watches because they want to see what's next. Even those people that say they hate women's basketball, I don't watch that stuff. Caitlin Clark? Yes, yeah, I watched her. So it's that pull that this is something that we're witnessing. I know LeBron used that a long time ago, but we're witnessing this transformation and we're transfixed by it. I want to see what's next. I want to see how she's going to look when she comes back now from not playing and she's got that look in her eyes. I watched her interview right before we actually got on this. I was watching her interview about day 1 of practice and her drive and desire to be the best. And you watch that. It's the same way I watched Diana Taurasi when she was hitting all these threes. I'd watch her in practice because I played with her overseas. And then I'd play against her and I'd be like, there is no way you're hitting. Oh, she hit it. And you're just transfixed. And I think that supersedes race, gender, age, religion, everything. We love basketball and we want to see how great this kid can be. And not kid because she's young, but kid because we're old.
She's captivating. She's
Definitely a
just
kid John.
captivating.
Yeah, that's for sure. Go ahead, Donna. Your
She's
take
just
on
captivating. Listen, she's really captivating, and she's captivated the imagination. I mean, look, she put up serious numbers. I heard about her for a long time, actually. Like when just starting out college, there's this girl Caitlin who's like scoring 20, and I'm like, like, like Kelsey Plum scored and Sabrina scored, okay. But it's how she scored. And then when you saw her and the stakes and how she carried her team, and it was like, I mean, the stories are just incredible. And you know what? God bless her. And like at the time, same generation kind of thing, Tiger Woods of the world, who then cast this huge light on everyone. So now I'm hearing people talking about, you know, Asia, and I'm hearing them talk about Sabrina, and I think so many poor players. Like, well, people say, I didn't realize I had so many good players. Now, we can be offended by that, or we can say, hello, welcome to something you should have known a long time ago, but we're glad you're here because now you're here. When 18,000 people showed up at Barclays Center for Unrivaled. I'm like, okay, why? There was no team to cheer for per se. There were athletes to cheer for. But what I was told was it was a confluence of emotion around the celebration of the rise of women's sports and especially women's basketball. And they said, like, we're going to show the world, we're going to show up. And I thought that was fantastic, right? And so everyone is a part of that. Everyone has a stake. And sometimes there needs to be a spark. And we've had many sparks. Candace was one of my first round draft choices. And to this day, I have followed her. I love her, how she's matured and developed and her, like totally ability to handle so many things. It's fantastic. And by the way, she drove numbers in her day, big time drove her numbers. But then it was time to accelerate. Now it's accelerated again. So on the shoulders of all the players, going back to the Flying Queens, maybe in the 20s or whenever they were,
Yes,
right?
Waylon
There are women who
Baptist.
played this game with heart and passion, right? And a skill level that delighted fans. And every single one of them actually should really, as we say in my world, take pride, right, in what's happening now.
And as you said, this is an extraordinary moment and to take advantage of it. And obviously, it hasn't been without some fits and starts and, some pitfalls and set up against a polarized time in our country and a 74% Black league. I don't have to tell you guys this. Not everyone was thrilled and is thrilled, and there are fans who aren't. Of course, Caitlin is a transcendent talent, high wire act, right? You can't take your eyes off her. It's entertainment. It's well beyond just basketball. It is something you just have to. Well, I've had men who never would have given the time of day to women's basketball. Tell me, they change their evenings to watch her play, and they would never watch anyone else
Correct.
watching her, they're then seeing everybody else and they're becoming fans that they watch even when she's not playing. But as you both know, this hasn't been smooth. There have been obviously people who are upset, that so I'll just say it. It's a white woman in a 74% Black league. How do you make sense of that, both of you, Taj and Donna, of understand and again a polarized country? When Caitlin and Angel Reese, so it was, of course, especially focusing on Caitlin Clark here, shows up and drafted, graduates and drafted. That's 24. We've got a presidential election that is commencing with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. So everything is very culturally, right? How do you make sense of, and even Kathy Engelbert, who felt the need to, mention Caitlin, but then when she's asked about Caitlin Clark, but then is also asked to then answers with Caitlin and Angel or something, even though she wasn't asked about Angel. That sense of maybe, is it hurt feelings a little or understanding that this is a predominantly Black league that never got the attention that it deserved, or many think it deserved until Caitlin Clark came in? How do you make sense, or how do you give some sense of perspective to that part of this conversation?
Yeah, I'd say for me, being one of the '70s babies and remembering Isaiah Thomas, I think when he said something, or maybe it was Dennis Rodman said something about Larry Bird, and the Magic and Larry fake, thing against him. I think some of that is just chalked up to perception and not reality. I think as a player, I worked for the league during this time. I never once heard a player say anything about race when it came to anything. And so sometimes we perceive things that we think are going to happen like that. And there are people that speak because, with the internet now, you've given this opportunity to speak without being seen, anonymous, whatever it is. And I think for the players, it's just playing. They're just playing. I was with Skylar Diggins at an event at the Final Four, and she said her welcome to the league moment was in a practice, a preseason game that didn't mean anything, and she got popped in the lip by another player and ended up with 4 stitches in her mouth. Um, and no, no one said, "Oh, she hit her because she's this person or this color or anything." It's just the way the league is. And I think if people focus more on the talent that's spread across the league and less on those ancillary things, it will move forward faster. Like no matter the political space of the world that we're in now, and not just the US, but everywhere, I think sports has always been a connector. and a unifier. I mean, we think about the Olympic Games. The purpose is to unify and not to divide. And I think if we keep the divisive s- rigmarole out and concentrate and focus on women and basketball, it moves us forward much faster. I love sports. I travel the world speaking about sports and how it unifies. I've been to Kazakhstan, if we want to say as a Black woman in Kazakhstan, to talk about basketball and how it unifies. I've been all of these countries. Some of them have never seen someone like me, and the sport still unifies. I don't even speak the same language, and it still unifies. And I think we have to focus on that and focus less about other stuff.
Incredible, wise, kind, and just caring words, and so smart, and we all should listen to that. Donna, why don't I give you the last word here before we once again talk about the fabulous Upshot League? But what's your sense of the issue there and the growing pains or whatever it has been as Caitlin Clark has come in and in some ways Harry Edwards who talking all about that this was a moment that maybe some players you had to have conversations and work through some of these issues. What are your thoughts
Yeah,
as someone?
I listen, I'm not gonna dismiss behavior regardless of whatever you can attribute it to, as Taj, I think, so wisely said, but I also lived through Tiger Woods, I would say, what do you call it when you bring some inauguration, if you will, into the PGA Tour, right? Here's this young, very talented, right? A young man of color going into the white world of golf. And, they couldn't, no one could take their eyes off him. I mean, they still can't, right? But no one could take their eyes off him. And there was a lot of backbiting about that. There were players who were jealous, who didn't think they got their recognition. He took their limelight as he was making them, right? Wealthy, creating generation wealth for them, for their families and their families beyond and on all that time. And I think there's something in that about, athletes are elite because they dedicate their entire lives to excelling at something, right? And therefore there's a healthy ego expressed different ways by different personalities, that gets impacted by what's happening around them, and sometimes it's not expressed the best possible way. But I get it. It's not the first time. I'm not saying it dismisses it, but we've seen it in sports throughout time.
The human condition. It is age old, right? We're and you've been there a long time and your cubicle and all here comes the new person. It's yes, there's always issues. But let's hope the WNBA, whatever it is, enough of that and move on to, well, my goodness, winning games and making a lot of money, which is clearly what they're going to be doing, certainly more than they ever have before. Before we go, again, the Upshot League. What is what does that mean from both of you? You know, what does it mean? What does it tell us about where women's sports are, where Title IX is, and the opportunities as they continue to expand in women's sports?
I think at the Upshot League we like to say the future is up, and I think it says it all, right? I saw this great LinkedIn thing. It says women's sports are no longer emerging; they're surging. Right. So this is a real moment of time of business development. I love the Deloitte study that came out that talked about the fact that $3 billion of value in women's sports, right, is in terms of an economic movement. What's so great about that data point is that represents 340% growth over 3 years in the women's sports space, right? And so attendance, all the key metrics are up, which we love. No one's saying, "Oh, what's the first league that's going to fold?" That's what I came into. I wanted to kill every guy who said that. Like, now it's kind of like, how big can they be? How sustainable is this, right? And what we all need to embrace is this mindset of abundance, right? The sky's the limit. The Upshot League is here and the future is up.
And as you've said, and Tosh, we'll give you the last word here, that we are just pumping out millions and millions of girls from high school and women from college every year who played sports, not necessarily great athletes like you two, but played in high school or played, did softball and early on fifth, sixth grade basketball and travel and volleyball and lacrosse and all that. And that have had sports a part of their life and they're going to run the country. I mean, that's just not only on the court, but throughout the nation. And we see those numbers in the C-suite, over 95%,
95.
that are
Yes.
for, C-suite women or athletes. how do you put it all in perspective? And then, of course, you're working now with your new league.
Yeah, I think we're on a trajectory that was unimaginable 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I even say 10 years ago. And I think that trajectory for not only women basketball, professional basketball, but also all sports for women. There is a mindset that we are thankful for now that is opening the minds of those decision makers, sponsorship folks, marketing, everything that says that women in these sports are worth their time, energy, money, time, talent, and their money. And for us as folks that are now looking to build a legacy with the Upshot League, that means everything because now these companies are viewing women's sports as a viable space for their products, for their money, for their time, for their daughters to be part of. And that's really what we want to do. Um, I came to the Upshot League to help elevate all players that are going to be in this sport long term. Not only, like Donna said, our communities, our partners, our sponsors, our players, our staffs. How can we uplift anyone that's involved in that? And that doesn't mean that they actually play sports. They don't have to be professional athletes to be part of this new rhythm, this new style. They can work in the front office. They can work as ball kids who become equipment managers for the Phoenix Suns. As I know, one young lady who used to be a ball kid in Phoenix for us is now running stuff. She's still involved. She's still part of the sports landscape. And I think now we see more than ever that folks are willing to pick up the phone. Folks are willing to answer those emails. And for our kids and our generation after our kids, that's important. It's important to me as a mom of 3 girls and now a young man that they see these spaces as accessible for everyone. I think that's the legacy, what that myself, that Donna, that Andy Kaufman, who's a co-founder, who's Mark Walsh, who's everyone that's involved for folks like you, who's coming after you, that's going to uplift women's sports. It's important. This is a moment. This is a moment. And Donna likes to do her rights. I always tell her she always got to say it anytime she's talking about it because it really makes sense. And I think that's the final words that you should hear is all the rights because it is. And it really answers the reasons why we do this and why we're here and why we want to see it grow and develop. Donna, take it away.
Oh, okay. I guess so. She teed me up here, Christine. Okay. When I talk about this, and we all should have this in our life, this is the right thing to do for all the right reasons at the right time with the right people, right? And ultimately the right business model. And so when you can have, I mean, that there's not many times where you can align all 5 of those things and feel like you're on a mission of pure, right? Of purity and purpose. But I feel like for this, we can. Upshot League,
Well,
the future is up.
well, exactly. Well, and again, with what we're talking about, at the top of the sport with the WNBA and what we're seeing here, it's truly remarkable. As my book, which of course, Donna, thank you so much for your help. Taj, I missed you, but we'll catch you on the next book or the next book after that. But,
Absolutely.
Caitlin Clark and the revolution in women's sports, and that's where we are. There's no doubt about it. And you two are a huge part of that. And I cannot thank you enough for joining me. Taj McWilliams-Franklin, again, a stellar career, Hall of Famer.
Thank you.
Just a delight to finally meet you and get a chance to
Yes.
you.
And I
And
do
she's
have your
amazing,
book,
right?
so.
Right, Christine? Right. If you two haven't
I have your
met,
book.
and Christine's like, she's the warrior pioneer, like literally on the front lines, since the beginning, putting it out there and still at it. So thank you, Christine. We appreciate you.
Well,
Thank
thank you. I
you.
appreciate you, Donna Orender. Of course, you and I go back a million years, and hopefully there's a million more yet to come. So,
A million more plus. Okay, I like that.
right. We'll just use that round number of a million. And
Yeah, I can get comfortable with a million.
And Taj, who's younger than us, is going, maybe not a million.
Not a million.
No. But thank you both. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
on, and always great to see you. Thank you. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.